Hello again. It's John Mee from Alive and Kicking here in Leeds in West Yorkshire in England for webinar 3 in my series called A Journey to the Sea and Beyond. Thank you for joining me. And I just wanted to say that recently I've been lucky enough to be working with some families in an organisation called Little Live Stories for Leeds. And I thought, again, to give you, I don't know, another kind of flavour of my work, I'd show you just some of those pictures of the people that I've been working with. You know, like having a really good time with this family here, enjoying myself hugely with them while they laugh and have fun. And then here I am being Frederick the fisherman. You'll see this hat later on this morning, more of that as we go along. So, you know, I've had some good times working in safely distanced circumstances. I've been lucky enough to be invited to do that and work with families. And of course, I want, as usual, to thank the Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority for inviting me and Bright Start to make this a reality for us together. So welcome to webinar 3. I'm capturing these ideas in 3 webinars, and don't forget that you can catch up with them and see them again, or see them for the first time on the Bright Start website, where you'll also find all the handouts from webinar 1, 2, and today's webinar number 3. You, of course, will select from the ideas that I've been giving you. You'll choose what's right for you, and you'll find the right order for yourselves. All I can do is to make a number of suggestions for you to choose from. So today, I'm going to be inviting questions at the end of the webinar today. So if you'll save your questions, or if you'll save raising your hand until the end of the webinar, there'll be a chance for us to talk together then. I will be looking at our journey to the sea and beyond, and trying to give you a selection of ideas about how you might work with your children. And of course, if we don't have time for all the questions at the end of today's webinar, you can email me via the website or via Alive and Kicking's email address that you'll see at the end. And incidentally, if you'd like to find out more about Alive and Kicking Theatre Company's work, please search for us on the web, find our website, Alive and Kicking Theatre Company. It would be great to hear from you. So if you feel like emailing me or contacting me via the website, please do. I'd love to know how you're getting on. I'd love to know any questions you've got, and I promise I will try to answer them all. Good. Oh, and thank you for replying to my pre-webinar questions. You told me in your answers that you would like to be able to have an overview today. I shall do my best. And all the way through, you want me to refer to children with special needs. Well, I've thought about a way of trying to organise an overview right at the very beginning. Here's my way. Are you from the island's village? Are you from the island's shore? Are you from the island's mountains? Can you hear the river roar? Well, I wondered whether you might capture the village, the mountains, the journey, the rivers. You might capture them in song, and you could, of course, together with the children, if you feel like singing together. I always think that singing is a good way to bring the feeling of the piece, and also to remember what the narrative line is, what's been happening in the story. And then, you know, it's like, I suppose, I hope you'll remember that in the first webinar, we found out who the people are who we're going to be, where we live, and what our life is like. In the second webinar, here's my overview, we saw what was a smoking volcano suddenly being an exploding volcano and threatening our lives. And at that point, following my storyline, we went through the swamp, round the forest, meeting the bear, and solving those problems, dealing with, if you like, dramatic tension about, shall we go on, shall we go back, how do we deal with this, how do we deal with that? Your children and yourselves, I hope, becoming problem solvers in the second webinar, as I was describing. And in today's third one, we'll look at how the storyline is completed and how there are possibilities for you to continue the storyline if you'd like to, resolution and reflection. Of course, those are in 3 webinars. You might do this all in one go, or you might make a shortened version of it, or depending upon your children's energy, your children's capabilities, your own energy, the other things you've got in your life, you might decide to continue this. If you do, don't forget that you're invited to send your stories to the Bright Start organization, and they're going to have a gallery of photographs and stories. And I suggest that if you're not writers, you might be speakers, or you might be soundscapers, or you might be singers, or you might be photographers. There are lots of different ways of capturing storylines. So you asked for a recap of special needs points. So what I'm going to do is to begin by answering that idea of yours, that request for you to share with you some overall notes about how we might well cater for some people with special needs. So I'm beginning here. To remind you that I've supplied a number of pictures. You'll find all of them in the handout, and you'll find the picture maps in the handout. You might, in order to prepare yourselves and prepare your children, you might just look at those pictures without even introducing the storyline, just so that you can familiarize yourselves with the idea. And don't forget to use the picture maps, because that's a starting point, and you can add words, add colors, add all sorts of things on the large piece of paper that you must provide to create your own picture map. You'll remember starting off with a picture of the village, of the volcano, the mountain in the middle, and the harbor as well. Nothing else, but that's for you to add to as you go along. You could think about having a regular day and time to continue with this adventure if you and the children need that, that regular time, that anticipation. Some people prefer to have a time and a day set aside. Other people prefer just to do it when the time seems right. You will know yourselves about whether to set aside a regular day and time or not. Don't forget, encourage the children to lead the story from within. You'll provide the overall structure of the story, but the children are the ones who really count in terms of developing who are you going to be, where do you live, what's a day in your life like, what adventures have you already had, did you solve some of the story ideas that I already set, will you find your own extra stories, or will you stick with the main one? See what you think. Be ready to take a break. It's so important not to feel you have to rush through everything, but don't forget to have all the things you need ready by your side, like I had my geese ready, I've got my hats, my scarves, and so on. More of that as we go along. Of course, if your children have an idea that some of them find really hard to let go of, don't stop them. Let them try to build that into the story with them, rather than reacting against it. Go gentle. And if your child really isn't getting it, just stop for a moment, go and have a drink or have a walk, and then when the moment's right, come back to our journey later as we go along. Oh yes, I wanted to mention that your turn, my turn game. It's your turn to do this. Why don't you walk up the mountainside? Now it's my turn to walk up the mountainside. You can model things. Oh, there's the statues game. Walk, walk, freeze. Slide along the side of the volcano. Slide, slide, freeze. The statues game. You could try that. And when you're frozen, you can try a thought tracking game. One where you go, now that you're frozen, what are you thinking? And you can not only have the activity, but you can have the feeling level that you can work at as well. Let the children wear the mantle of the expert in all of this. Oh, yes, you have to be careful when switching from one idea to another, and look at changing thinking patterns and social interaction moments. You might want to stick with one line, or you might be prepared to go off on others. Your decision. There. So that for a start. Those are my reminders to you. Those are my special needs reminders. Some key advice. Don't make too many assumptions about your children. Sometimes children are able to do a lot more than we give them credit for. And sometimes, of course, you have to wait for them and find alternative ways. Be flexible in your plan. Be ready to change as you go along in response to what the children are doing. And at the beginning, make sure you take time to make yourselves comfortable. For example, if you're going to play some music, don't do it too loud or too quiet. Prepare yourself beforehand so that you all feel comfy and you all feel happy. Comfy cozy is the expression sometimes I like to use. It might be useful for you to give as much information to the children before you start so that they know what's coming. Some children with special needs need that information to begin with. So do have a think about whether you prepare the children by telling them, or, of course, sometimes a surprise can be really, really good. You decide. Be ready to sing. Be ready to dance. Be ready to mime. Be ready to play together. And make sure that you leave time for recap and reflection. What I'd like to do is just to remind you quickly of some of the story opportunities that I've given to you as we've gone along in our work together. So I'm just going to show you what I hope will be a list of those story opportunities. Just have a look at these. Yeah, we thought together about, have you given a name to the island? Sometimes having a name captures the whole business. The island of the volcano, Volcano Island, Gordon's Island, the place of the geese. But you decide and let the children decide. And don't forget, you can colour in the picture map, not only with the colour of the sea, the colour of the mountains, but what about the colour of feelings as you go along? The colour when you first saw the volcano exploding, the colour when you saw the bear. Don't forget hand dances. Don't forget soundscapes. Whoosh, poof, whoosh. And don't forget a picture looking down towards the sea when you've got beyond the bear and you've got into the hidey place and you're looking towards your journey's end. You could stop and you could create a picture of what you together can see. Naming Gordon's geese was another activity, all beginning with a G. Oh, you might find some new things in the swamp and in the forest. And I don't know how you dealt with the bear. I did have this rope, but it would be too easy to try to tie him up. See how creative you can be in dealing with the bear. Did you do anything about the key and the necklace? I wonder what you might have done there. And by the way, do you remember? The volcano is right next to our village. And as Gordon said, the old stories are that there was another half of the island. I wonder what happened to that other half. Have a think, see if any of those story opportunities appeal to you there. So I'd like just to kind of give you a list of those story opportunities in case you want to take your time and stop and start building stories as you go along. Of course, as parents, you'll have other things to do in your lives as well. So you have to select which of these suggestions. All I can say is, here's a number of suggestions, think about them and make your own decisions at home together about which ones you're going to use and how much time you're going to give with this. And while you're doing that, have a think about using yourselves in role. You could use Gordon's words, and you could make your own words. Let the children be in role as well. And think about that lifeline experience that I mentioned last week, you know, how old am I? Where do I live? What's my job? What are the things I like doing in the evening? Just to give you a backstory. So think about working in role as well. I'm modeling what I would do if I was working with children. All I can do is to give you an example. Oh, by the way, don't forget, you can stop and start. Don't forget, you can revisit moments of the story. You can sequence moments so that we could go back to the episode of Gordon having his cheese last thing at night and replay it in order to make the narrative line become clear for those people who need revisiting as an example. Oh, and have things ready as you go along. I've got one today. Later on, you'll find out why I've got this picture of an old broken boat. That's going to be quite important in my ideas today. And of course, invite the children to bring their own things. I had a thought about that, you know, packing up your rucksack. Do you know the game? I packed my rucksack and in it I put my stick. I packed my rucksack and in it I put my stick and my hat. I put my stick, my hat, my gloves, my stick, my hat, my gloves, my sandwiches, my stick, my hat, my gloves, my sandwiches, my boots, my stick, my... And it's a cumulative game. When you're thinking about, you know, what you might pack up for your journey across our island, you might even make a diary of the journey. That would be another way. And of course, what you can do is to look together right at the very beginning at some pictures. And what I'm going to do now is to try to show you some of those pictures together. You'll find all of these on the Bright Start website in the handouts that I've prepared. So if you began with these, you might just show them. You might have them on the table at home so the children can see them. They might begin to make their own story just by looking at the picture. You can show them one at a time like this. You can think, what would happen if? What would happen when? How would we cross the island on this track? Would we ever get to the sea. And would it look like this? Or would it look like this? An opportunity to use these. And if you got as far as the sea and you needed to find a boat, would the harbour look like this? So you can use those photographs in a variety of those sorts of ways. So don't be afraid to use them to start things off so that you're together looking at images. You can choose the photographs that they like best to look at, and you ask to get an overview of the story. What I want to do is to remind you of an overview by just showing you the map that we've got together that we can use. Let me just remind you of this. I think that this picture map here that my colleague Martin Riley drew for us, I think that this picture map tells the story so far. Here we are with the story so far. That's the story so far. Here we are with the story so far. The exploding volcano, the village where we live, the swamp that we squelched through, the crocodiles, the frogs, the forest creatures, the bear, and our hiding place. So that's another way of giving an overview to yourselves, because look there in the top left-hand corner is today's focus, the harbour, the boats, and can we get there? So that was the image of the whole story so far. It's an important strategy for recapping, for any children, for any parents, so you can remember what you've been doing. If you've got a memory like mine, I always need something visual as well as something written. I always need something like a song. I always need something like movement to remind me of the narrative, of the storyline. And quite often, of course, one way of getting myself ready for that is to have a load of things ready to share with the children. So, for example, today I've got this. I wonder how this is going to be used in this part of our story. Today, I've got this. I wonder how this will be used in today's story. The children might begin to guess. For example, not only have I got those things, look, I have these to use in the story today. How will they be used? What part will they play? And of course, don't forget, along with me throughout the story, these have been quite important. Where are they? Have we still got them with us? Have they gone back home? Have we got them safely? Have we got little their bells on their necks ringing? Don't forget, you can show things at the beginning to kind of get the energy going, to get things sort of, on the way. So by now, hopefully, your big picture that I showed as an overview a moment ago will start to have more detail, more colour, more words, more events happening inside it. And gradually, you'll build the picture up as the story is invented and made and told to each other. Now, in a moment, I'm going to invite you to meet Gordon the Goosekeeper again. And as I do that, I want to remind you that you can use Gordon's words and you can make them your own. You don't have to be Gordon, you can be another character, but Gordon as a function in the story moves the story along. So that's why I'm using that in role. If you don't feel like being in role, some adults find that hard, you can simply be a narrator. Or if you've got another adult with you, that person can be the narrator, the storyteller, while you become one of the characters. The children, of course, can become characters too, and you can model that by showing them yourself in role. It's a parallel role. It's not more important than the children, it's alongside the children. It's as important, but no more important. Remember, the children need room to be in role, so you need to offer them an opportunity to do that. And today, you'll find I'm modelling Gordon and then another role as we go along. So let me have a think now. Oh yes, hot seating and thought tracking. You know, you can put yourself in role like I did, oh yes, much earlier on with Gordon. And you can ask Gordon questions like, how often do you feed the geese in a day? Are the geese ever a nuisance? Have you always had geese? What are the difficult moments about geese? What are the joyful moments? You know, you can hot seat Gordon in that kind of way, or you can thought track the characters. What are you feeling now that you can see the smoke rising? What are you feeling now that you're squelching through the forest? So hot seating and thought tracking. You'll see those mentioned in the handouts as well. Very good. Well, don't forget, if you are using role, signal you're going to go into role, put the hat on, put the necktie on, signal clearly that that is what's going to happen next. In the video that I'm going to show in a moment, you'll see Gordon remembering his walk from the hiding place down towards the sea. Listen to his words and see if you want to use his words or if you want to make up your own. My challenge is for you to be creative as well, because it's good fun. Use your imaginations. You'll know what to do best, of course. Don't just tell the story, but show what's happened. Have a free play moment so that you can make the journey from the hiding place all the way down to the sea together. So please, will you, Harry, will you stand by now to show video 1, in which you'll see Gordon walking the track all the way down to the sea. So please now then, Harry, will you show video 1, Gordon telling us what he saw as he walked the track? Harry. Yes, it's me, Gordon, the goosekeeper. Oh, I hope you don't mind me having the rug around my shoulders, you know. Like I said before, it makes me feel comfortable. And I know another thing that makes me feel good. You've had a look, haven't you, at the track that goes from the cliff where we could see down to the harbour. You've had a look at the track and you've seen what dangers and things and what other tracks that go across it and the way the vegetation is and which way the wind is blowing. So you know a great deal. I had a little look as well. And when I went straight down to the bottom of the cliff, the first thing I saw was an ice slide. I thought, oh, it feels like I'm a boy again. And I got on the ice slide. 1, 2, 3, whoosh, I went. Whee, I felt so good. And then I got faster and faster and faster. And woof, off the end I fell right by the side of a lake. Oh, just splash the water in my face. And I splashed and I looked down into the water and I thought, oh, you don't look too bad for an old man, you know, Gordon. Then I looked at the reflection over my shoulder. I could see the gathering clouds of smoke from the volcano hovering in the sky, and I thought, I'd better get on. I went further and further, and then I saw a tumbling river. I thought, it'll take me all the way down to the harbour with all the people. We'll be safe. And then I looked in the river. And it was one of those things, a sort of one that would, if you weren't careful when you were crossing it, you know, over some stepping stones, you'd be pulled in and whoosh, dragged down. I thought, no, so I went carefully, 1 foot at a time across the stepping stones. I got to the other side and I'm waiting to see if you'll come across maybe that way, or maybe you'll find another way. And then, while I was waiting, I heard this kind of I looked this way, I looked that way, but I couldn't see anything. I wonder if you've heard that noise. I wonder whether by any chance you know what it is that's making that noise. Be safe. Ooh, yeah, exactly. So there was Gordon moving the narrative on, you know, trying to help to move the story towards, well, not just an end, but maybe a resolution. And then the whoosh, bang, crash, soundscape. Can you guess what it was? Be ready for the children to answer anything at that point. Even if they say it's a spaceship, you could say something like, there must be people who are looking at us from way up in the stars. I wonder what they're seeing. You know, you can find ways of including the children's ideas all the time, even if at first you think, no, that's not right. Well, let it be right. Don't forget your own word jazz. Whoosh, bang, crash, ash, yow, crack. The volcano exploding, a volcano dance, and a break to slow the drama down. The smoke rising, freeze frame. The smoke exploding, woof, freeze frame. Start it again, stop. Those freeze frames, an opportunity for you to say, begin the smoke and stop, or for the children to say to you, begin the smoke, or for them to mime to you and stop. So using a freeze frame game and perhaps using their own word jazz. Everybody, of course, is a dancer. Let me just show you the next series of PowerPoint slides here, which begin to help us to move towards the sea. Here we are, the first one then, an opportunity to colour in and word bubble the gathering volcano smoke. You might begin to think about what colours you could use there, what shapes you will draw, what words you might write there. And some of those words could be spelled out, like shaking earth, rocks vibrating, boiling steam, scalding lava, eruption, molten magma, rolling. Those are my English language words. You'll decide what language, of course, to work in. Or, of course, you might use onomatopoeia. Whoosh, bang, crash, boom, meow, crack. They seem to me to be the same in any language almost. And then there's a possibility of doing a word jazz. Whoosh, shaking earth, bang, rocks vibrating, crash, ash cascading, ash cascading, crash, pew, pew, scalding lava, boiling steam, molten magma rolling, eruption, you'll make your own version of it, but play with the words together. And for those children who don't have language, doesn't stop you having language. It doesn't stop them moving while you use the words. Here we are then, a chance to have a look at the way in which our final part of our journey will take place. All the way down the track to the sea, a close-up of these steps down, closer and closer. And of course, you'll have to find your own way of using your map. You might have cut out pictures that you can use for that. I don't really know, but keep going closer. Now The old boat. A close-up of the houses, the ships sailing away, the old marooned boat on the shore. A chance for you then to take your own cutout picture, if you've got one, like I did at the beginning, if you've got one, and to place it on the map, just to reinforce the idea of there being one boat and only one boat left. And of course, you could have a free play moment there where you go, there's an old boat. What shall we do? Go and see what you can collect. Is there something that you could use like this to help repair the sails? Have some material ready yourselves. Is there something you could use which might be, something like these? What would they do to, I don't know, what's this got to do with it? I know all those things. Look, don't forget, we've got some of this. And you might like to create a chant as a way of providing variety, because by now the smoke of the volcano is almost hovering over you. Here's my chant. You can have this one or you can make your own. We're going to the harbour, we're going to find a boat, escaping the volcano, out on the sea afloat, past the ice, past the lake, past the river like a snake, down to the harbour, we're going to find a boat, escaping the volcano, out on the sea, afloat. And you can use that kind of repetition, that sort of language. We're going to the harbour, we're going to find a boat. You can use that as variety inside the storytelling and as a reflection, a recapping exercise while you look over your shoulder and see what you see. Do you remember? What else shall we add to the volcano song? Can it be more fearful? You might write your own volcano song. That could be another thing you could sing on the Bright Start website. Or you could do the hands behind the back exercise and get out the picture of what you see hovering in the sky, or the picture of the flames shooting up, or the rocks whooshing into the sky and coming closer and closer and closer towards us. And of course, make sure that you're more frightened than the children are. And now that you've seen the boat, you could, of course, in the narratives, shout to those two sailing boats, ask them to come back. Don't let that happen. What we need to, when it looks like we've got the solution, you need to increase the tension, build it up one stage further. And so the way I'm doing that, in order not just for us to use the story of getting onto those two boats and sail away safely, I'm going to use this as a way of introducing another role, and this. And in a moment, I'm going to ask Harry if you'll show video 2 in which you'll see me in another role, a role of the one man who's left behind. And he will present another difficulty for you to solve together. Just when we thought we were safe and we could get on those boats, they've sailed away. And there in the harbour, you'll find old Tom, the one person left there. Harry, will you please show us old Tom by starting video 2? Oh, hello, it's me, old Tom. I live just by the lighthouse down by the harbour. I'm getting old now, and it's my job to look after all the boats. Well, I have looked after all the boats, but they've gone. And I'm the only one left. And now there's a moon. I can see In the far distance, the volcano's playing up again, isn't it? You must have travelled all the way across the island. Did you come past the mountain? Did you see the swamp? Did you see the ice slide? I know all those things. And now here I am. And you what? Have I got a boat? No, we're stuck here. No, it's a long way across the sea. You couldn't swim. Well, there is one old boat. Are you seen it? It's all smashed up by the boat shed. Oh, it's been there for years and years. A bit like me. My job has been to, sweep things up, but it's me back. Oh, it's me shoulders. It's me knees. I think I'm getting too old for anything. What? Repair the boat? Oh, you'll be lucky. And even if you did repair the boat, they always said that was the bad luck boat. You'd have to find a way of getting rid of its bad luck before you set sail in it, or in her, I should say. Every boat is called her. Every boat is a she. This boat, the old boat, hasn't even got a name, and there's holes in the bottom of the wood, and the sails are torn, and I don't recommend it to you, but if you want to have a go, why should I be the one to stop you? I'll just sit to one side and have a little look while you work. Good luck. If you can make that boat seaworthy, you're better than I am. But meanwhile, I'll just sit down. My shoulders ache and my back. Oh dear. Good luck with repairing the boat. But remember, there's never been good luck in that boat. Maybe you can bring good luck to it. Oh, you haven't got much time. Look, the volcano's smoke is getting closer. So there's me trying to up the tension by introducing a new problem, a new cliffhanger. What shall we do next? In trying to repair the boat, what shall we use to repair it? How will we turn an old broken boat that's once upon a time sailed, but now is sitting on the shore, not looking just like these ones, but looking a little bit like this one? How shall we repair it? What do we need? One of the special needs things you could do is to make a list. What materials do you need? And more than that, how will you make sure that that boat does not have bad luck? There are messages on the boat there that you might be able to see when you get there. I've written some here for you to think about. You could find these messages pinned to the side of the boat. Come on board this boat if you dare. Look behind you every step of the way. The seventh wave will get you. Watch out for the whale that will swallow you whole. If you sail on this boat, it is at your own risk. What can you do to take those messages and to change them from bad luck into good luck? Here's some ideas. Never give in. You might have these around, or you might ask the children. Take courage. What do we reckon that means? Take a moment to think. Don't forget. Oh, this is so important. Stick together. Important in our story and important in life, because here we are in 2 time zones at the same time. One is our story time zone and the other one is our own time zone. Stick together. There's a message. Oh, here's another. Believe in yourself. And above all, when things seem really bad, keep hoping. You could have those messages ready around the place for you simply to cast and for them to pick up from the floor and use. Who knows, for you to decide about that. So old Tom says, can't go on without him. You know, what should we do? What could happen there? We just don't know. We've got all sorts of decisions to make. But meanwhile, of course, you might want to think about what will you do? How will you persuade him to come with you? Could you think about how best to persuade him? What could happen? How on earth would you persuade him to come, or should we leave him there? What's our responsibility? What should we do? What do you think the best way forward is? What would you say to old Tom? And will you make a plan of what to do? It's a bit like, if you like preparing a script. He might say, I'm not ready to change things in my life. I'm too old. I would hold you back. I get very frightened. Just leave me. What will you say? Have some choice about that. But let's imagine for a moment that we do take Tom out to sea. A new story about him, a launch ceremony, promises to each other. Don't forget, old Tom might show you some warnings, and in a minute, just got time for this. Harry, I'd like you to show, if you would, the next video in which we meet old Tom once again, warning us about things. So Harry, would you now please show video 4? Thank you. So here we are, out in that boat. I know it said it was dangerous, but you know, I feel quite safe here with you. And looking out to sea towards a new land to go to, and remembering our island, the island that's got so many memories. The time that we were together living at the bottom of the slope, the time when I had a kind of tummy rumble in the middle of the night, and I opened the curtains and looked up, and I could see the smoke coming from the volcano. All the stories of the island, all the way through the swamp together, and the forest, and the bear, and the mountain range, and being together. Explorers, never giving in, always looking after each other, making sure we're safe by thinking together, being the island people, being the people who are ready to find a new land, a new way of living, but never forgetting where we come from, what we belong to, and what our history is, the history of our island. So I just want to thank you, and there's the geese, so that I can remind myself of being together with you. Thank you for taking me safely out to sea, because don't know what's going to happen next. but I know we've got each other. Don't forget to make stories. Don't forget to keep together. A last moment from Gordon the Goosekeeper. Remembering that old Tom might have warned us about whirlpools and rocks and singing voices. If you hear the sirens singing, come closer, come closer. Be very, very careful when you're out at sea in the boat. If the wind changes into a new direction, and will the future be a wonderful time? Will old Tom be with us? Will we look over our shoulders and see the gathering volcano? Will we ever go back to our island? If you have time, you always got a chance to continue that journey. You can do it in a structured way using the picture maps. You can do it in free play by just, let's be in a boat. Let the wind fill our sails, we're off to sea. Let the wind fill our sails, we're off to sea. Let the wind fill our sails, the wind fill our sails, the wind fill our sails, we're off to sea. Let the waves roll beneath, we're out at sea. Let the waves roll beneath, we're out at sea. Let the waves roll beneath, the waves roll beneath. The waves roll beneath, we're out at sea. You can tell that I enjoy using songs in my work. You can tell that I enjoy using mime and movement. You can tell that I enjoy writing. You can choose, depending upon your child's interests, your child's special characters, your child's special capabilities and needs, which ones of those you will decide to use. There's a variety there. And so what I've been trying to do is to remind you of that that range of special needs, because that's what you asked me to do in this webinar. You also asked me to provide you with an overview. Well, the overview of the story is in 3 parts. Number 1, we live in the village. Who are we? What jobs have we got? What's our life like? Number 2, we introduce danger. The volcano that was gently smoking starts to explode, and we have to take a journey to get away. In the journey, in part 2, we face all sorts of dangers and solve them in different ways. And we write stories, or we dance, or we sing songs as we're going along. And in part 3, today's webinar, what's happened is that we've got to the old boat, and perhaps we've mended it, or who knows, we might have decided to look over our shoulders and we might have found that it's too late. We might have to dig a tunnel underground. We might have to stand in the water up to our necks while the flames. There are all sorts of ways that you can think of, and the children will help you to decide. So there's my overview. Number 1, who are we? Where are we? What do we do? Number 2, leaving home because of the danger. Number 3, a journey to the sea and beyond. You must decide whether you go out like old Tom did, and like Gordon the Goosekeeper did, or whether you'll stay. Are you from the island's village? Are you from the island's shore? Are you from the island's mountains? Can you hear the rivers roar? You can use song again and again to recap. Now, there. I've just got 5 minutes or so left in case you would like to ask any questions, and for me to say finally goodbye. So over to you. Are there any questions that you'd like to put? You could now raise your hands, or you could put them into the chat box at the bottom of the screen. I'm waiting to see whether you would like to ask any questions. Over to you. I'll count to 10 and see if you do. Over to you. I'll count to 10 and see if you do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9.5, 9 3/4, 9.99999. No questions yet from you, but then that's all right. Life is like that. Let me remind you that if after this webinar is over today, or if you see it when you look at the recordings on the Bright Start website, if you do have any questions that you would like to put to me, I'd be really, really happy for you to send me an email. At the end of the webinar, Harry will put up the email address. Don't forget to have a look at our Alive and Kicking Theatre Company website. And the really important question again is, how do you do this when you're such a busy parent? It is a teaser, isn't it? What I've been doing is to be, I suppose, flooding you with ideas. You will have to select for yourselves, because you're the ones who really know best. My frame for this work has been as if I was working with children, but of course I'm just talking to you in these webinars. I've tried to encourage you to be playful. Please be playful. That business that Sue Jennings started at the beginning with, please be playful. Dramatic play, structured play, free play. Remember that I'm half making suggestions and half showing. And of course, I want to thank again the Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority for making this initiative possible. And I promised you at the beginning, in webinar 1, that we would try to do some story making. I promised you in webinar 1 that we'd try to do some storytelling. I promised you there would be excitement. I suggested that we would have an adventure together, that together we would face danger, that together we would find ourselves exploring, that together we would travel in our mind's eye, in our imagination, that there would be time for thinking together and a chance to reflect and a chance to celebrate. Your opportunity to celebrate is in doing the work. Your opportunity is to invent the story and find a way of sharing it on the Bright Start website. And please do email me with any of your questions. I promise I'll try to respond to them all. And please send me any of your songs. I'd just love to read your stories, and I would love to hear your songs. I would love to see your dancers. I would love to hear your soundscapes. So those are invitations from me to you, John Mee, at Alive and Kicking here in the city of Leeds in West Yorkshire in England, saying thank you very much indeed for the invitation to be with you, and good luck with your story making, and goodbye.